Ezekiel was exiled, far from his homeland, witnessing the pain and suffering of his people, deported and humiliated. Even in this desolate scenario, God called him to be a watchman, someone who observes and warns, someone who confronts reality with courage and determination. The oak emerges in this context as a direct warning. Majestic and imposing, it symbolizes proud kingdoms, nations that believe themselves eternal, people who rise on their own strength, forgetting that all they possess is granted. Is there any tree that can withstand the axe of divine judgment? Is there any nation or human structure that can endure when God's justice decides to act? The oak is not merely large. It is a portrait of human arrogance disguised as stability and power. The oak grows, shelters birds, offers shade, and sustains life around it. Yet, in its pride, ignores the source that gave it existence. How many times has humanity repeated this mistake? How many civilizations relied on armies, wealth, and monumental constructions, only to crumble before history? And if Ezekiel's vision was not only about past empires, but also about current systems that govern our lives, manipulate societies, and accumulate power without accountability to morality or faith, are we merely repeating ancient patterns under new guises? The prophet invites us to see beyond appearances. The oak may seem solid and indestructible, but it is often corroded from within. Does this resemble contemporary society, where political, economic, and religious structures appear firm, yet suffer from corruption, selfishness, and internal decay? And you, as an individual, are your roots firmly planted in true faith, or do you rely only on appearances and empty traditions? If a storm of adversity struck your life now, would you remain steadfast, or would you succumb like a rotting trunk? The cosmic test Ezekiel witnessed was not limited to his generation. It is a timeless warning. Humanity continues to be challenged daily. To trust in power, wealth, or prestige is a dangerous path. Yet the vision of the oak also offers hope. God, who topples the rotten and corrupt, also plants and waters the new. Restoration is not limited to empires or societies. It applies to every individual willing to root their life in true faith. Even when signs of destruction accumulate, there is potential for renewal. And this should lead us to reflect. Are we allowing our lives to be mere shadow and appearance? Or are we seeking a deep connection, capable of withstanding the winds of adversity? At the portal of the unknown, we challenge you to look around. How many modern structures seem unshakable but are corroded inside? Political systems, economies, ideologies, religions, and social habits rise like imposing oaks, yet are vulnerable to arrogance and corruption. What if Ezekiel's prophecy is speaking directly to us? What if it is a warning for each of us to see our flaws and prepare spiritually? Are we truly ready to confront the fragility of what we believe to be solid, or will we continue comfortably deceived? Even in the face of collapse, the vision reveals lessons of hope. True strength lies not in the height of the tree, but in the depth of its roots, and this is an invitation to introspection. The future of humanity, as well as the individual destiny of each person, depends on choices made now, the willingness to resist the temptation of pride, and to cultivate deep roots in God. Consider this. Are your decisions today building something that can withstand time, or merely feeding an illusion of stability that may collapse tomorrow? Ezekiel's vision of the oak shows that majesty and fragility coexist. Structures, leaders, and systems may appear powerful, but internal corruption, arrogance, and pride undermine their durability. The warning is clear. Appearances can deceive, but the truth of the roots determines survival. The cycle of pride, fall, and renewal is continuous and challenges us to question our role before the world and God. The oak also forces us to reflect on free will and responsibility. Are we doomed to repeat the mistakes of ancient civilizations, or can we break cycles of arrogance and decay? How many current problems, political crises, environmental disasters, social inequalities, are signs of structures silently about to collapse? And most provocatively, to what extent are we willing to see our own fragility before it is too late? The prophecy is not merely history. It is an invitation to action. Every individual has the opportunity to strengthen their spiritual roots, cultivating faith, integrity, and awareness. Greatness without foundation is fleeting, and the oak reminds us that any structure raised without solid principles is destined to fall. Here at the Portal of the Unknown, we encourage you to question, reflect, and engage in this debate, because understanding these truths can change how we see the present and shape the future we are building. Ezekiel's oak challenges us to look at ourselves, our choices, and our faith. It shows us that even after the fall, there is potential for renewal and growth. It is an invitation to reflect. Are our lives firmly rooted in truth, or do they sway in the winds of arrogance and illusion? This questioning will be explored further, revealing how these lessons apply to the modern world, social structures, and the individual journey of each person. Ezekiel's vision of the oak continues to challenge us, revealing that true strength does not lie in height, impressiveness, or visible power, but in the depth of the spiritual roots that sustain life. Structures, leaders, and systems may seem solid and indestructible, yet often rot from within, corroded by arrogance, selfishness, and corruption. This metaphor is not limited to ancient times. It directly reflects the challenges of our contemporary world. If we look closely, we will see that many current political, economic, and social systems show clear signs of instability, even as they attempt to appear strong. Are we ready to perceive these weaknesses, or will we continue ignoring the signs of a silent collapse? Ezekiel's oak also prompts reflection on individual responsibility. Every decision, every action, every choice of integrity or moral abandonment contributes to strengthening or weakening our own roots. The vision challenges each person to assess their life. Are you building your existence on solid principles, or merely on appearances? If a sudden storm strikes your world, losses, injustices, crises, will you remain steadfast or collapse? Here at the Portal of the Unknown, we want each viewer to understand that these questions are not rhetorical. They demand deep reflection and conscious response. The prophecy also sparks debate about humanity's future. To what extent are we conditioned to repeat the mistakes of ancient civilizations? The environmental, political, and social crises we witness today, are they mere coincidences, or echoes of the same cycle of pride and fall that Ezekiel described thousands of years ago? How many modern structures, governments, corporations, educational and religious systems are true oaks that seem eternal but are corroded inside? A critical reading of this vision leads us to question not only the world around us, but also how we position ourselves within it. Even in the face of ruin, there is a message of hope. God, who topples what is corrupt and rotten, also offers the opportunity for renewal. The fallen oak gives way to new roots, new possibilities, and a future that depends on right choices and true faith. This hope is not passive. It requires action, vigilance, and the willingness to cultivate solid values. Are we investing in our own restoration, or merely waiting for something external to save us? This is a direct provocation that sparks intense debate and reflection. The warning extends to how we perceive power and greatness. True greatness is not apparent. It is invisible, measured by integrity and the ability to withstand storms. The oak shows us that structures relying solely on appearance are destined to fall. Applying this to our lives, we realize that our own projects, relationships, and ambitions may be vulnerable if they do not have deep roots in principles and faith. Here at the Portal of the Unknown, we constantly ask, to what extent are we building on solid foundations, and how much depends merely on illusion and appearance? The oak also provokes reflection on the cycle of arrogance, fall, and renewal. The same pattern repeats in societies and individuals. Pride elevates, arrogance corrupts, the fall approaches, and only faith and integrity allow for renewal. The challenge is recognizing when we are nearing the limit, when our actions may lead to destruction, and when it is time to plant new roots, stronger and aligned with divine truth. The prophecy invites deep introspection. To what extent do our lives reflect the solidity of an oak truly rooted in faith? And to what extent are they mere appearances that can collapse at any moment? Are we ready to acknowledge our vulnerabilities, or do we prefer to ignore them until it is too late? Every crisis, every challenge, every obstacle is a cosmic test revealing the strength or weakness of our spiritual roots. Ezekiel's oak also challenges us to consider the collective impact of our actions. If many people live only by appearances, how can a society sustain itself? Human structures that ignore universal principles inevitably crumble. But those who cultivate faith, integrity, and awareness become resilient to time and storms. The vision reminds us that renewal is always possible, but it depends on conscious choices and the courage to act rightly. In conclusion, this prophecy invites reflection on ourselves, our choices, and our future. It warns us of the danger of pride and arrogance, teaches that true strength lies in the depth of faith and integrity, and challenges us to cultivate enduring roots. It is an invitation to debate. To what extent does Ezekiel's oak represent only the past, and to what extent does it reflect the present and warn us about humanity's future? Share your opinion in the comments, because here at the Portal of the Unknown, every insight is part of a discussion that can change how we see the world and our own journey.